and to unpack all of this. Vince, Vince Coglianese?
Yeah,
yes,
Coglianese,
okay.
you got it.
I'm like, I have to be reminded. Coglianese, like bolognese. And along with host of the White Flag podcast, former Congressman and 2020 Republican presidential candidate Joe Walsh. I know your name. I apologize. I just have to be reminded sometimes. Okay, so, Joe, the DOJ is admitting these documents do exist, but it might be nothing. So why is it so important to the GOP that these files see the light of day?
Well, look, if Hunter Biden committed crimes, that should be investigated. If Hunter Biden used his dad's office to enrich himself personally, I mean, that sucks. Both sides, both parties do that kind of thing. But I have no problem with the Justice Department looking into actual crimes that Hunter Biden committed. They should look into actual crimes that Donald Trump or any American committed.
Vince, the new Republican House majority gearing up for its own investigations into Hunter Biden. They unearthed, quote, bombshells in 2019 before the presidential election to sway people away from Biden and have them vote for Trump. But it didn't work. So is the GOP just like beating a dead horse with all of this?
Well, one of the reasons it didn't work was because there was a media blackout on the subject. That was one of the big reasons. Ultimately, this is about what the truth is. And to the congressman's point, yes, it should be about the criminality of any American. But specifically in this case, it's about Joe Biden's, the extent of Joe Biden's corruption. That matters the most because he's the president of the United States. And when we look at the Hunter Biden saga, here's what we know. The Justice Department absolutely has documents about Hunter Biden's business dealings. We know that because the FBI took Hunter Biden's laptop into its possession in December of 2019. What does that laptop contain? It contains text messages showing that Hunter Biden sought to avoid signing up as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agent Registration Act to do lobbying in the United States on behalf of foreign governments. It also shows that he divvied up money for various people, including famously 10% for the big guy. Who is the big guy? According to Tony Bobulinski, Hunter Biden's business partner at the time, it is 100% Joe Biden. Tony Bobulinski, the last time the FBI talked to him was before the 2020 election, and that is the only time they talked to him. They have not checked in with him again, and I imagine with Republicans now in control of the House and conducting some of this oversight, you'll finally get to hear from Tony Bobulinski in a government forum where he can go under oath and make these declarations and force the White House to have to begin to even answering some of these questions.
You know, Joe, a lot of Democrats will say this investigation is meant to distract from the work the president and Democrats in Congress are doing and trying to get done. Is this some political theater? I mean, I know you believe it's worthy of an investigation, but is there some mess and circus involved here?
Oh, absolutely. This is partly revenge. This is partly distraction. You know, look, Vince makes some really good points, but Republicans have to be really, really careful here. If they're going to spend 2 years going after Hunter Biden, that will absolutely backfire. The son of the president, that will backfire with the American people. If there are legitimate connections that can be made to the president of the United States, that's a different animal. And I guess, I mean, we sit in this precarious position. I hope and believe and trust that the Justice Department will do the right thing when it comes to Donald Trump, whether he should be indicted or not. Same thing here, whether crimes were committed or not. Follow the evidence.
You know, Vince, you brought up this point about this being more about investigating President Biden than about Hunter Biden. So at this point, in terms of getting a criminal case against President Biden, how difficult would that be, considering what his son's business dealings were and how involved the current commander-in-chief has been with them?
Well, it's going to be essential to establish whether or not the president was financially benefiting from his son making these arrangements overseas with, by the way, some of our biggest adversaries and some of the biggest players on the international stage. He had business dealings in Ukraine, China, and Russia. Pick 3 other countries that are more important right now in the American consciousness in terms of foreign relations. Those are the big ones. And he's making all of this money. And the laptop itself, the documents we have, his business partners on the record already alleged that Joe Biden was a beneficiary of this. That suggests to me basically exposure, criminal exposure here for the president of the United States. It deserves a robust, thorough investigation. And to the congressman's point, an actual fact-finding one.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.